Hello everyone, welcome to Basically Neda. I'm Neda, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of the books that I reread, and they were my favorites in my mid-20s. As we all grow and have different experiences in life, our opinions also change, and our taste in books also change. So I wanted to see if I still liked some of my favorites from my mid-20s, which has been about 10 to 12 years from when I read those ones. You know, a little older now. I'm in my 30s, Anyways, so I decided to pick 3 of them. The first one was City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. Second one was Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. And the third one was The Magicians by Lev Grossman. And here's what happened. The first one I read was The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is a young adult fantasy romance novel. In this book, the main character is a 17-year-old who finds out that magic actually exists and magical creatures exist, and there's an actual country that is for those people who are hunting demons and those kind of things, and that she's actually from there. So I'm not going to go into any more. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are very familiar with this book. So I'm just going to leave it as that with the description of this book. I went into this book wanting to have the same experience that I had at the very beginning when I read it, which was 13 years ago. Oh wow, it's been a while. So yeah, I read it a long time ago. And then so as I keep reading, I found it that I really didn't like the characters anymore. I had outgrown those relationships, those kind of adventures that they have been taking, and even like the adult characters that were in it, like Magnus Bane. I actually found at the very first time that I read this book, I found him eccentric and very fun to read about. Yet in this time around, I found him a little more, as Cassandra Clare puts the ordinary people called mundane. And yeah, I didn't find it as enjoyable as it was from the beginning when I read it the first time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is a bad book. Nobody should read it. I'm saying that for me, in my late 30s, it no longer is going to give me joy. It's just, I am past that age now that I don't really need to reread this book, because I am now in a different place in my life. And then the second book that I read was Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. This story is about a young waitress in rural New Orleans called Bonton, and she's a telepath. She meets this vampire and she falls in love with him, and the more she gets into his world, the more she learns about herself and her abilities. I also had the same experience with this book as I did with City of Bones. I found that I really didn't care about the plot anymore. I didn't care about the characters anymore. I also found this book very much a cliche and it wasn't enjoyable anymore. With that said, I no longer read a lot of fantasy romance. In this era of my life, I've been reading more of like high fantasy and mystery fantasy and those kind of things. So I find that it makes sense for these two books not to be enjoyable anymore. And I probably won't reread them anymore. The third book that I read was The Magicians by Lev Grossman. This is the story of a young man who is in the time when he is looking for colleges, and he ends up walking into the campus of a magical college. He finds out that magic exists. He actually tests to get into this magical college, and he gets in. And he learns more about the different magic systems, and that his favorite childhood book actually exists. The world of his favorite childhood book actually exists in real life. And it is I found it more captivating than the other two books. I enjoyed it. I'm not saying that there's no flaws in this one. There are some flaws in this one. But I also found that I liked the magic system more than the other two. And the characters weren't talking in cliches. And it was enjoyable. It is more closer to the books that I now read and enjoy. So that said, I might reread this again, and I might continue rereading the series whenever I have time, whenever I want to fall into that world again. I might reread it. That's why it's still here. And yeah, that's my conclusion about this, that I no longer like fantasy romance novels, and I am more gravitated towards high fantasy and science fiction fantasy and those kind of books that are more complex in their magic system, and they're more plot driven, more atmospheric towards their story, and there's more depth into that magic system than the fantasy romances that I used to like. So let me know down below if you have read any of these books and if you like them, or if you have read any of your books that you read a long time ago and reread them and found that you don't like them anymore either. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please press the like button. If you want to see more of my contents, please press the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.